What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Harley Quinn boss fight that IGN put out as obviously part of IGN First. We thought they could maybe be done, but no, they actually gave us something pretty, I would say, gigantic. So we pretty much see the setup to Nightwing fighting Harley, and this was kind of made clear. This is the end. This is the last part of her arc, her story arc. This would be the last quest. This is when you fight her, and of course, they cut it off before, right? She's got different phases, different cutscenes interrupted, which I actually really do like that. That I very much appreciate, and I'll give them that. I'll talk about my weaknesses in a second, but then they cut it off right at the end. She's got maybe a fourth, a third of health left, probably a third, let's say, right, the last third of her fight, and so you're going to fight her one more time with an electric hammer, and then, you know, you get the ending cutscene. So I actually do appreciate they didn't show the whole thing. That would kind of be pretty dumb, showing the entirety of the, like, the last cutscene of arresting her, or whatever ends up happening to her. But, you know, the fight itself, well, let me continue with the positives, because let's get the positives out of the way, and we'll go back to the negatives. The positives, I would say, the visuals. I think the visuals actually looked pretty darn cool. I like the hospital. I like how it looks. I like how Harley looks the more I'm seeing her, and the more I'm hearing her. So I'll keep bringing it up. You know, when they did the villains trailer and they showed Harley, I was not a fan of her voice at all. And now I would say I'm a lot more into it. It's different. I mean, this is not Tara Strong, obviously, and it's going to take some getting used to. I'm not going to pretend like it's not weird to hear, you know, somebody else's Harley in a video game like this, because we're so used to something else. But I do think, you know, you get that bubbly personality, you get the more wild side of her in these cutscenes, and I think she does a really good job. It's just a different voice, but I think she does a really good job. The combat itself, well, in terms of, like, positives, I like the movement. So I like when Harley's actually, like, swinging the hammer. I like when Nightwing's hitting her. I like when Nightwing's hitting the enemies. I will give credit to, I guess, the animations, right, would then be that aspect of what I'm talking about. So the movement, the actual hits. I like that Harley, and this, well, maybe this is a positive and negative. If you notice, Harley seems to be susceptible to normal attacks. And what I mean by that is you do almost like a grapple on her, where, like, you grab her and you do, like, an animation. And there's a move that Nightwing can do that looks like you can freeze people, right? You freeze them in mid-air or mid-space, and then you're able to get a couple hits. What I find interesting, and again, this could be a good or bad thing, villains normally aren't affected by those kind of things, right? Sometimes when you face villains, and specifically games like this, there'll be moves that you can do that work on normal grunts that don't work on villains, and yet they do work. So, you know what I mean? And maybe that won't work on Mr. Freeze. Maybe it will. In fact, I would actually kind of assume it actually would work. Right? I don't think they would change it based off of which villain you're fighting. I think it would just be all or nothing. So I look at that maybe as a positive, because I think that's kind of cool, and I don't know necessarily where I'm not willing to, I guess, entrench myself on one side or the other in that. A couple negatives. Well, one negative, of course, is the numbers, right, coming off. Now, you can turn that off, so I just want to throw that in there just because I just don't think it's ever been necessary. But that one you can turn off. It's not that big of a deal. The other one, of course, is the actual, I guess this goes back to, like, the animations are good, but the actual strategic fighting is, in my opinion, not good almost at all. This goes to almost like a philosophical question. Like I guess what I'm trying to get at. Gotham Knights is a different kind of game. Gotham Knights is this beat 'em up, right? Like what we've seen, the gameplay that we've seen so far, that's what this game is. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you think to the Arkham games, and yes, some of those villains were, like, you know, you beat them up. They're in the wide open area. They have the goons that attack. You attack the goons, but you can also attack them. You wait for them to crash into a wall or something. Like, they have a pattern, and you have to exploit a specific thing. You do it, like, 3 times, and you win, right? I'm not saying necessarily that's perfect. However, I'll go to, like, the Mr. Freeze fight. See, the Mr. Freeze fight is more of a product of not having to be, like, a slave to your game system, right? Because the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City is more like, it's different. It's a very different kind of fight. It's built differently than, again, the base gameplay. So, again, what I'm getting at here is, like, I get it. When you fight Mr. Freeze, when you fight Harley, when you fight Clayface, it's going to be this. It's going to be in an open area. They're going to have a health bar. You're going to beat them up. There's going to be several stages, and that's it. You do your moves on them. And I guess what I am saying is I don't love that from like a creative standpoint because it's kind of all going to be the same. There's nothing gigantically unique about, and now of course like their fighting style is different, their weapons are different, the different stages, again, like even in this stage Harley has different stages. Like I get it, like that is going to be different. I hope you guys get what I'm trying to say. I don't even know if I get what I'm trying to say. I just think that because you have to make the boss fights the same as the normal fights in this game, and this doesn't seem like a game you can do wildly different things that conflict with its formula, it's going to limit how good the boss fights can be, right? I think ultimately, to me, like I'm not a huge fan of boss fights in this way. I would like a boss fight that's very just different and more, I guess, linked to who they are. Now, I don't know how you do a Harley Quinn boss fight necessarily outside of this, but something that, kind of almost breaks the system that you're in. That's what I would prefer. Again, you go back to like the Mr. Freeze. And I would say really just in general, some of the Arkham fights, they're different. They're more, again, reliant on the specific, person that you're facing. Whereas I think this game is going to be more generic. There are definitely positives. I just think the boss fights, in terms of a system, how they're built, I think they're going to be more generic. So, and that is in my opinion, that is a pretty big weakness. At the same time, again, like I don't have my hands on it. So when I am playing it, and when I'm fighting her, like I may not care. And then I fight Clayface, and it's the same kind of thing. But obviously it's different because he'll have different attacks. There'll be different phases to it, right? Like that, I may not care. But as of right now, at least it's something to talk about. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you want to support or follow me anywhere else, all my social media links are in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.